coronavirus has changed all of our lives, but how will it impact our future? Does this change everything? I am Alar Tankler. On this episode of Does This Change Everything?, we will tackle the question of what could be the coronavirus's impact on digital infrastructure and digital industries. Now, a lot of us have experienced the immediate impact in this area. For me, for example, I'm conducting my work as well as recording this podcast from the home office, using broadband connections for meetings and all that. But what could be the broader impact longer term? Will we switch to digital in many areas of our lives because it's safer or because we've just now found out that it's so much more convenient? And how does the digital ecosystem around us need to adapt to this? So with me today is Benoit Denis, who's the European Investment Bank's senior economist in digital infrastructure. So Benoit, has the coronavirus changed everything for the digital world?
Well, there is no doubt that the coronavirus crisis will have a considerable impact on the information and communication technology market. I mean, when manufacturers' plants close or hotel reservations are down to zero, we can imagine that IT projects that are not absolutely necessary are stopped or at least paused on a large front. In addition, many purchases of new IT equipment will likely be postponed for the time being. However, the importance of digital infrastructures and solutions appear clear for resilience, notably in case of a pandemic like the one you experience now. You just mentioned it, you yourself work at home now, and we are recording this audio from home. So suppliers whose activities are linked to the digital workplace experience strong demand since the outbreak. So for instance, the growing number of home workers increased demand for solutions and equipment in order to be able to work remotely. So this applies not only to the purchase of laptops with the corresponding software licenses, but also to the installation of necessary infrastructure, including VPN access and security solutions. We can highlight also that all cloud-based collaborative tools are now experiencing exponential demand with large accounts that are quickly needed.
So Benoit, help me understand how companies are managing this increased demand. Are they having to plug in new additional servers to increase this cloud capacity, or what does it mean in practice?
So most companies were not prepared for having 100% of their staff teleworking at a single moment. So companies or public administrations would dimension their IT systems for having maximum 20-30% of their staff working remotely. So obviously they need to increase the bandwidth of their internet connections. Very often, if part of the staff is working with desktop computers, we need to equip them with laptops. Obviously, all those laptops need to be equipped with the necessary software licenses, including also security solutions. And then the whole VPN, so the access that we are using to connect to the servers, have to be increased as well. So there is an immediate response which requires significant investments.
Mm-hmm. And do you think this, since companies now, a lot of companies and organizations have now made those investments, do you think these will be there, to stay? Do you think people and companies will continue to make use of those additional resources that they've put in place now, even after the coronavirus crisis will hopefully at some point pass?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the world will never be as before, including in the digital sectors. We understand better today that digital infrastructures and digital solutions are a factor of resilience in case of pandemics, but it can also be the case of an economic downturn or a cyber attack. So obviously, there would be a strong trend towards being better equipped for now and for the future. There is also a whole lot of services that we are adopting, which will certainly stay for longer. For instance, some companies have been reluctant to allow their staff to work remotely, even if the climate change benefits are identified as high. So today, people equipped with the right tools are demonstrating that it is possible to work efficiently from anywhere. Likewise, the financial, economic, and social benefits of telemedicine have long been demonstrated, but still many countries did not allow the reimbursement of those teleconsultations. So in a matter of a few days, when the pandemic arrived, notably in Europe, those benefits were suddenly understood, and teleconsultations are now eligible in many countries for reimbursement. So I doubt that this will change after the outbreak. We are really taking a change in how we consider IT solutions as a tool for resilience.
And of course, people, the users and the clients of different services who were maybe reluctant to try out new services or new ways of living their lives, they have now been forced into isolation, and they're forced to try these new ways of working and living, and they might actually enjoy it. Do you think that their experiences might be fairly positive in that sense?
Well, we are working in very difficult situations at the moment. Obviously, kids are at home, getting supplies. It's not always easy, and we are fully limited in any human interaction that we have. So we went to the worst case scenario. Um, but again, we are demonstrating that it is possible to remain operational in a more digital manner. So definitely people are taking new habits. Some people may have been very reluctant to have meetings over the phone or over video conferences, even in the office. They may increase their use. They understand that it's a way of working that actually delivers quality. So definitely it will be a big step into a more digital economy.
Now, Benoit, can you explain a little bit what you think will be the necessary steps to adapt to this new reality from the industry's point of view? I mean, we've seen, we've had these stories in the press about how some service providers are having to, limit the quality of Netflix connections because there's just so much demand right now that the infrastructure cannot cope with all the demand. And obviously, 5G is something that's expected to provide a lot more bandwidth and better connections, speedier connections in the future. But what else do you think that the industry and especially maybe on the infrastructure side, they have to think about based on this experience?
Well, the ICT industry usually adapts fairly rapidly to changing environments. And this comes from the fact that apart from the infrastructure, which demand grows exponentially all the time, the industry is highly dematerialized. Many of the assets are intangible and can be adapted. And you've just mentioned the example of Netflix, which is able to reduce the quality of the video streams in order to limit bandwidth. So there will be some adaptations, but those are accessible. I think most importantly is the ICT industry will support all other industries to adapt to this new situation, mitigate risks that were often unforeseen before, and secure resilience. So those investments would be beneficial in case again of pandemic outbreaks, but any other crisis that we may face. But you are right to point out to the infrastructure, because again the global pandemic outbreak we are experiencing now has brought the world's digital divide into focus. So the internet is a vital communication tool for people and communities affected by the pandemic. But we should not forget that not everyone has access to the internet. In the world, there are 3.6 billion people who remain offline, and even in Europe, only about half of rural households have access to high-speed broadband. So again, the crisis highlighted the importance of digital infrastructures and the potential severity of the digital divide. I mean, as an example, as schools and workplaces close, those without reliable access to the internet are unable to access education content or are unable to work remotely as people who are in rural areas. Likewise, other people may not have access to teleconsultation services. So in recent weeks, the use of those services have spurred for good reasons. I mean, first, people fear getting infected going to crowded medical centers. And secondly, the medical staff need to prioritize people that they consult physically. So people without broadband connection may miss critical medical advices and services. And obviously, this is not a situation that we should accept. So this digital divide is more than ever before under the spotlight, and we will have to drive investments in this area. I mean, on the infrastructure, we should not only consider telecommunication infrastructures. In a situation as the one we experience now, we see that a digitalized healthcare system clearly facilitates the pandemic response by enhancing surveillance and control activities and by facilitating the exchange of information. So significant investments may have to be done also on that front.
And obviously, the European Investment Bank is probably well placed to be involved in those investments. Are you preparing to have a lot more work in the coming months and years?
Well, the EIB is the international financial institution with the largest exposure in the digital sector. So obviously, we will have a major role to play. We have good experience financing digital infrastructures, and we have used and set up innovative instruments to address this market across Europe and outside of Europe. So obviously, we will certainly continue on that front. And on the digital solutions front as well, we have been very active already in the recent years, and we can see that we will be more and more solicited to that front. We already have some clients, notably banks, who called us, highlighting that they are not able to operate in a remote manner. They are not equipped for it. So they clearly need to quickly invest in such solutions. And I do believe that EIB, with its expertise on both financing infrastructures and solutions, will have to play a major role in the EU and outside the EU.
Well, thank you very much, Benoit. This was Benoit Denis, Senior Economist in the Digital Infrastructure Division at the European Investment Bank. And this was Does This Change Everything? From the European Investment Bank, the EU Bank.